Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the new year. Hope you all had a happy and safe new year. Welcome to a new year of our health and wellness program and our rewards of wellness program. Richard? Boy. Anyway, okay, so we're doing a few things differently. We had a lot of learnings from last year, had a lot of input from folks, and so we've made a few changes. The first you probably noticed is that there was no sign-in sheet at the front door. And it's kind of like, you know, you're sitting there going, well, how can we make that more efficient? Duh, why don't we just pass the thing around after everybody's in? That way we don't have to have the big lineup out there. And so we've got a new sign-up sheet that actually is pre-printed with everybody's names on it. So all you have to do is find your name, and initial. I mean, I know, okay, so some things are so simple that you can't even figure them out. So that's the first change that we've made, and that helps avoid the big lineup. And I'll just go ahead and start it right over here. There should be at least one pin on every table. So that's the first change we made. The second change that we made, which is kind of a big change, is that our Rewards of Wellness Incentive Program now applies to not just you, most of you are admin staff, but it also applies to our physician staff too. So we have one program for our clinicians, physicians, and all of us, the admin staff. So that's kind of cool. Last year we had two different programs. So the third thing that's different this year is that we now have two actual health and wellness staff people, Maha Razaki and Megan Feudel, who are now, as I found out this morning, their titles are wellness coordinators. So they are now wellness coordinators within our program, and that's really, really cool. We also have Emmie Yeiter, the fighter. I mean, I know it's hard to see her because she dresses so, drab. Yeah, right. So Emmie has been working with us. She's with the sales and marketing department, and she's just been kind of working with us, as you could say, a wellness champion. So she's going to be helping us with our presentation today. I think that's all kind of the housekeeping stuff. One last thing. John King is now is an actual photographer and knows how to run a camera. Is going to be doing our videotaping, and we're going to be creating WebEx out of these. And so people will be able to watch from different locations instead of having to come here. So that's another big change. So that's pretty cool. We'll still have all these available online, so you can watch the videos later if you can't make one, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Today, we kind of thought it would be a good idea to start the year off by going through the new program, and it's a little bit different than last year, and making sure that everybody understood how it works. But before we do that, we wanted to talk a little bit about, well, what happened last year? What are some of the outcomes from last year? How many people participated? What did they do? And that kind of thing. So I'm going to first talk about that. And then Richard's going to talk a little bit about the vision for the program. And then we're going to get into the details of the actual incentive program. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it because it's actually been online for about 2 months, different versions of it. And so you've had a chance to look at it through our website, nwpwellness.org. So, any questions? You all know where the bathrooms are, right? Want to make sure. All right, so let's talk about what happened last year. I'm trying to get out of everybody's way here. First slide, please. All right. So we started a program last June, if you might recall. We had a couple of wellness luncheons that built up to the kickoff of the program in June. And by the end of the year, we had about 95 participation by all of us, the admin staff. So we were very happy with that. Just as a benchmark, companies are lucky to get 30 to 40% participation within their corporate wellness program. So we're very happy about that. It doesn't mean that everybody finished every aspect of our program, but they did do at least one part of it, like go to a brown bag, do a community event, do all the biometric stuff. And so we're very, very happy about that. Number 2. So you remember part 1 was getting up to date, where you had to take the THA and do your care gaps and biometrics. 83% of us completed the care gap and the biometric part, and then 82% completed the THA, which is phenomenal, really phenomenal. So I think overall another benchmark health plan came in at 51% completing the THA, and so our group within our rewards of wellness program, we hit 82%. So that's very cool. All right, next slide. Brown bag lunches were very well attended, and at the beginning started a bit slow because they were new, but by the end we had around 80 or so people coming. So we had 12 one-hour brown bag sessions, and we had those 3 lunches that you guys might remember over at the Ambridge. So if you add up everybody who attended either the luncheon or the brown bag sessions, we had about a little over almost 1,100 people. I mean, that's counting the same people who attended different things, but that's how you count attendance, total attendance. 535 who attended our brown bags. 60 people did the videos over the year, although there might be more because we didn't track that when we first offered the videos, so it's probably more than that. 480 who did the 3 lunches. In terms of educational hours, we offered about 76.5 hours. That includes the videos as well as the luncheons and the 1-hour brown bags. So in aggregate, there was about 1,215 hours of education consumed by all of us, which is pretty impressive. That's wellness education. Community activity and volunteer participation. We had about 25% of everybody turn in documentation that they participated in some kind of a fitness activity, although I know it's a lot higher than that because I know a lot of people who are out there doing runs and walks and triathlons and biking things who didn't submit their registration for that. So that's a very, very low number, but still pretty good that 25% of us submitted our documentation and got that, got our names in the drawing for those really nice awards. The physician program, which was entirely based on team and individual physical activities, we had about, I think the total number was about 85 physicians who participated in that. Any questions? Don't you all feel better? You got to feel better with all that stuff, huh?
Dave, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, talking about the people out there thriving and stuff, how are we supposed to submit that we're thriving? Just email you, say, hey, I went for a walk today, or what's the best way of doing that?
Well, we'll get into that with the new
Okay.
program.
I figured you would, but
Yeah,
you said
we'll
any
get
questions.
into that. Yeah. All right, what's the next slide? Am I done? I think I'm done.
I think just that we have a...
Well, have anybody here that's not seen our website? Y'all been on it? Nice. What do you think of it? Okay, thumbs up, thumbs down? All right. It's been kind of an evolving thing, and every day we put something new on there that makes it even better. I mean, we were making changes to it right up until through this morning, and so you can find everything on there that you would need for a wellness program through our website. It has portals right into kp.org. It has, you can go right to the THA, you can go to all sorts of educational things. One thing I really want to promote, because people haven't started using it yet, is the, what do you call it? The forums, the wellness forums. You can go in there, and we'll bring the website up here in a minute, but you can go in and you can post things. We have different categories. One is for, like, I think there's a walking forum, I can't remember, but there's 5 or 6 different forums, and you can like connect up with people. If you want to, go out and go for a walk at noon, you can post a message and say, I'm going to go for a walk at noon, meet you down in the lobby, and get people connected. So that's the purpose of that. So I'd really like people to start using it. It's just a really cool way to connect. Yeah.
Dave, is there a way or plans that you could actually push that out to us, either on a daily basis, weekly basis, like keep you walk, you signed up at?
Yeah, we're actually working on a way to get this out in front of people more frequently. Because that's one thing we haven't done, is to kind of get people connected up with the website or with different wellness activities. And so Megan Odell, who's kind of our web manager, is working on a way to do that. So that's part of the plan for this year. Come on in. All right, okay. So I think Richard's going to talk a little bit about what's to come.
Where we're going. So again, I'm really proud of you guys. We've done this to the board and in a couple other venues, and our goal next year is we want to be Oregon's healthiest employer, Northwest Permanente, for the 5 to 1,500. And what we need from you guys to do that is to participate with us. If you're not participating in the program or there's something that's bothering you, let Dave and Maha and Megan or myself know, because we want this to be a resource that's available to you. We're not trying to tell you what to do. That's not the spirit of our program. But if you think about how this group, we know the 75 things they're asking, and we're doing a whole bunch of things that they don't even, innovative things that they're not even measuring yet. So I think that we think that by focusing on what the criteria for this are, then Northwest Permanente would be Oregon's healthiest employer in this range next year. And again, we really want you to help us to drive that. And imagine what it would do for physician recruiting, just for the spirit of our organization. We're really working to try to engage physicians. So, and we're going to bring together a group of them that are interested and start working with them and Physician Health and Work Life Committee to figure out how do we get physicians involved in this as well. Next slide. So just to make it, to help you understand kind of the psychology and the infrastructure behind what we're doing is, if you think about it as a pyramid, okay, the foundation of that is we want you all to use all of the tools in kp.org, right? Close your care gaps, do your THA, get a PCP, right? All those things that we had on the incentive. And for people that have a difficult time, these are easy little things to do that get you on the road to health, right? And then we're doing this consistent education, and I'm really excited. This next year is going to be even better than last year. I think we're going to focus more on the wellness part, which is everything that happens above your shoulders. The health part is kind of below your shoulders. So Pam Edwards is going to come and talk to us, I think, next time about some really cool sort of ideas around mental health and wellness and stuff. And then just creating the sense of community, doing things together, volunteering in the community, doing things that benefit our society. We want to incent all that stuff because we think it's a good representation of what wellness and health is. And then what we believe is that as we all go through this, there are some things that we might want to work on, and those things are what we would call tools, right? So if it's stress management, so like, has anybody already turned in anything on their 2014 health and wellness thing yet? Nothing? Okay, I did. I'm the first one. So there's a $100 thing in there around stress management that's part of the THA. I'm like going through that, and it's really good. I mean, and there's some people in here that have come and talked to me about my stress management at work and my behaviors at work, and I'm trying to fix that. And it's excellent, okay? And we want you to use those tools, and we want to incent you to do that, as well as, working through with Kim Carlson's, healthy living program and smoking cessation. And those are all tools, right? And what we're measuring right now are engagement measures, the sort of things that Dave shared with you. Over the course of time, we should start to see changes in biometrics if this is working correctly like we think it is. And if there are any of you scientific types that would like to participate in this and help us think about how we evaluate it, we would more than be happy to have you do that. We also want to get docs involved with these kind of details. Any questions or comments about that? Next slide. And so you've seen Dr. Weiss present this before, right? Health and wellness. If you're sick, we want to get you in quickly, the right care at the right time, get you well, get you back out. If you're in the hospital, we want safest care in the industry. And then if you have some chronic problems, we want to get you in population care-based kinds of strategies where we know the evidence and the sort of treatment course that you should be following. But if you switch to the next slide, there's really another part of this, and it's really around productive employees, right? So I'm now involved in this family disability management stuff with Leslie Carvath and Carrie DeVino went over to work on this as well. And so there are really a couple of pieces. If you flip to the next slide, I think, yeah. So how these all work together is, this is really, our healthy lifestyle and our productive employees. This is really the stuff about how do we feel at work. Are we motivated? Is the environment stimulating? Do we work well with our colleagues? This idea of physician work-life satisfaction falls in here. And we're working with Michael Alberts on that. And then there's another interesting way to look at health and wellness, in that we're creating this clinical tool that doesn't yet exist, okay? So imagine if we focus on kinds of populations, okay? So let's say we focus on patients that have a high BMI or that smoke or have diabetes. Could we use a model like that clinically to get these patients engaged in their own health care, right? And then get them really to buy in and make changes to their behavior in terms of these tools, remember? So if you flip the next slide. The idea would be that, so imagine the program that we went through. Imagine that we get, so we're really kind of in year 3, we're in year 2, but we did, remember the first one, we did the anonymous self-reported stuff when Dave rounded with each of you. We have that data. Year 2, we did the 2013 incentive. Year 3, we're doing the 2014 incentive. We should be able to take the same things we did and get other groups and companies to do the same thing. So imagine in year 1, if we get a bunch of employers. In year 2, they move, and we're measuring the same things. We're doing the same things with them. And we should be able to get large numbers of a population looking at the engagement outcomes, like what we talked about, like what Dave just presented. And then over time, see what's happening to their biometric outcomes. This is sort of a scientific way to really move health and wellness into a workforce or into a population. Okay, and we have ideas to do some stuff with CHR on that. So this is really, I want you to think about where we've been and where we're going. This is really work that no one else is doing in the country. And we have a chance to be real leaders. So next slide. I think these get kind of funny. Oh, so next year the theme, and this is great. We define wellness as an active process of becoming aware and making choices towards a more successful existence. So I threw in a couple slides to kind of illustrate that. So first slide. So imagine this is you, and I think the theme in these education sessions is that if you have a little bit of knowledge, you don't just see what's above the water, right? You see what's underneath the water too, and it starts making you think. So next slide. So you got like the good voice in your head, right? So like the Seattle Seahawkers, Emmie and Don Nelson. The Seattle Seahawks. This is the good voice in your head, right? Saying, do the right thing and da 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 da. But there's also, next slide, there's also a bad voice in your head.
This is terrible.
And actually, I saw pictures of him. This dude, he's like tattooed like all over his whole body. I didn't realize that. With a shirt on.
It's very creative.
This is the bad voice in your head, okay? And when we dive into, when we're out here, we don't really realize there's other stuff going on. And if you pay attention to these brown bags, you hear these little tidbits. And every single one I've gone to now, when I observe something about my own behavior, I think about that brown bag and what I learned, whether it was from Keith Bachman or Steven Spindell or whatever. So next slide. And so, there are these little things all over. We got the bad guys and the good guys and the bad guys and the good guys. And what we want you to do is to be more aware of how things in your life are impacting your behavior and how that behavior has consequences, both good and bad, for your health. Okay? And the education piece, I think this is where it's at. And I guess I would ask, if of you that have come to these, and if we didn't offer any money, and we're not going to take the money away, how many people would still come to these things? Yeah, they're really good. And they're going to get better. I think that might be the last slide. So
I think it's my cue. All right, can you find our website? Yeah. All right, now we're going to go to our website, and we're going to just navigate the website and get to our program. That's later. All right, here it is.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, this is our program. Looks kind of like the other last week's program when you look at it like this, but you will see that there are some differences. The first thing that I want to do is make you aware of the guidelines. Oh, I can do this with the little thing, can I?
Yeah.
Go ahead and take one of these, pass them around. And I just want to say that, this is early in the year. This has always been sort of a work in progress, and we do make changes based on feedback that we're given from all of you. But as of today, this is how we're starting our program with some kind of rules about the program. And I won't go into them right now. You can read them, and if you have any questions, just let me know. Obviously, we want people to utilize our website. We have 3 parts to the program, kind of like last year. First part is need to complete THA, and again, it needs to be done within 12 months. So if you've done it within 12 months, you're good. Just show us evidence that you've done it within 12 months. And I want to say, it really works better if you can just, take a picture of that. Either send me the email that you get after you've completed it, or take a picture showing the date that you did it. When we started this program, I was supposed to be getting reports that show everybody who did it, the date they did it, but what happens is that the reports came like every 6 weeks, and it was delaying people getting money, and so it works better if you just send something to us. And so either take a screenshot, or if you have, what's that called, Snagit, send it to us through email. We've added a new test or a new assessment because we liked it. It was suggested from one of our board members, called the Real Age Test. It's similar to the THA, although it's not embedded within kinky.org. I've taken it, Richard has taken it, and what's really cool about it is that you go through the entire survey, and it's, it's pretty detailed. It'll tell you what your age is after having, answered all these questions, and it'll tell you what your real age is. So, for example, I'll use your example, if you don't mind, because it's better than mine, I'll tell you that. So, Richard is
25.
25.
No, I'm 47.4, and I'm actually 55.
Yeah, so he finished answering all the questions, and his real age came back, well, you actually, based on your health and wellness, 47. Even
If
though
I didn't drink, it'd probably be about 40.
see, an incentive to make a change, right? So it's kind of cool, and that's why we put it on there. So you might click on there and do it, even if you've done the THA within the last 12 months. It's just kind of a fun thing to do. Same thing, you need to show us that you've done one of those two assessments, and just like I said, just cut and paste or whatever, send us the documentation you've done it. And the second one is we're looking for no care gaps this year. Now this is tricky, all right, because there's two things. Number one, we're excluding if you have a BMI care gap, because there is a new care gap, a BMI care gap, and I think it's if you're over 30 BMI, it comes up as a care gap. Or tobacco use, or if there's a birthday-related care gap that's sitting in your KP.org. Because we haven't verified this yet, but we think that it could pop up now and stay in there till, let's say, you are due to do something in November, and we don't want that to hold you back from progressing through the program. So really what we want to see is the same health reminder or personal action plan, or both. Actually, we're trying to figure this out too, because what we're finding is that there's some of the care gaps are in the healthcare reminders in KP.org, and some, like BMI, smoking, and I think influenza vaccination, are in the personal action plan. So it would be really great if you could send both. We're just talking about that now, how we're going to deal with it. That would be the ideal.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
Don't tell me you're going to reboot.
Okay, so here's the catch. Because most of you have already done the THA, 83%, and have gone through the whole care gap thing, there's not an incentive award tied to this first one. However, to be eligible for where the money is, you've got to do these two things first, and then come down here and start working on the actual incentive part. So part two, we're focusing on smoking cessation and BMI this year. Okay, smoking cessation or smoking is not a big problem within Northwest Farm. BMI could use a little work, because about 51% of us have a BMI greater than 25, which is considered overweight. And then 20-some% have a BMI over 30, which is considered obese, which is a horrible word, but that's what they say. So we want to incent people. We don't want anybody smoking, number one. And number two, if you have a BMI care gap, we want to provide an incentive for you to take action to deal with that.
Although anybody can take any of it.
I'm getting there. So we'll give you $100 if you enroll in and complete a smoking cessation program, or if you enroll in one of our weight management programs. Kim Carlson's is a good one, but it doesn't have to be that one. And if you click on this link thing, it shows some different programs that you can complete. So if you are a smoker and have a BMI greater than 25, you can get $200. If you are a non-smoker and have a BMI under 25, you can get $200, but you got to complete these courses. So these are available to everybody. I'm not sure I would want to go through a 6-week smoking cessation course if I didn't smoke just to get $100, but we do need to make it available for everybody. All right, any questions about those two? And then the links here give you more information about what to provide. Yes?
So, other organized weight management programs, can you elaborate on that? Or is it just going to be under the KB Health Education Services? Like,
you can do Weight Watchers, you can do Jenny Craig, you can do any of those things. You just need to provide documentation that you're doing it. And I'm not sure, I've never done those, but if there's a completion process, I don't know if you ever complete those. Maybe if you reach your goal.
Yeah, you can. You can complete them and you can kind of stay.
Yeah, and then you go into a maintenance.
But
thing.
like I'm thinking like hiring a personal trainer, working with a personal trainer to help bring down your BMI as well as increase things. Is that
It's basically what we want is an organized weight management program.
Okay.
And if you hire a trainer that's putting you through some kind of an organized program, then you bet. What we're trying to avoid here is somebody who just says, well, I'm going to cut down on my carbs, and therefore I should get the $100. Yeah, we got to, I mean, we do have a fiducial responsibility, right? We got to be somewhat, we got to be careful with this one because, I mean, we're very, very lucky to have this benefit in our company, and we don't want to abuse it.
Hey Dave.
Yes.
I have a recommendation, but I know that a lot of people are using smartphones these days, but there is an app called My Weight. If you log into that, I don't know if any of you have ever taken a look at it, but it does show, it gives your BMI, what your goal is, what your target is, and that is one way where you could take a picture and kind of send it to you so you feel good about yourself saying, yes, I'm really doing this and I'm committed.
Nice.
You know, and it kind of gives you reds, greens, yellow if you're on track, and it also has a graph. I mean, it's a great tool to use if you, and it's a free app when I signed up, but it's a really good way to kind of weigh yourself and keep yourself honest and just watch, because it is sad when you see on here when I started I was obese and now I'm just overweight, so I'm feeling pretty good about myself. But
Send that to me because I really need it.
it's,
I really need it.
it's a good app. I really like it
Yeah.
because it gives you great information on diet and your body fat and your progress and your time. So
Okay.
I suggest it to anybody if you wanted to keep track of your BMI.
So send me the information on it, and we'll make it available to everybody.
Okay.
Probably put it in maybe under resources on the webpage. I'll be the first one to sign up for that. Okay, $100 if you complete the Relax Online Stress Management Program. This is what Richard was talking about. So there's $100. I mean, if that doesn't de-stress you, I mean, you can go buy a couple bottles of wine.
Yeah. Vodka.
Great.
Bottle of vodka.
But-
Just kidding. I don't have a drinking problem.
So you're just, I mean, if you haven't figured this out, your wellness team has every bit as much of a challenge with wellness as anybody else does. So, so we're pretty real about it. All right, brown bags. Okay, here's how this is going to work. We're breaking it into two segments, 6-month segments. So it's the first half of the year, the second half of the year. If you participate, attend in 5 out of the 6 that we're going to have from January through June, then you get the $100. You can view 3 online, up to 3 of the 6 or 5, if you will, if you want to do that. I mean, it's great for if you can't make a brown bag, but you get so much more out of them by coming and participating and talking to people and interacting. So, but that's available, and if you want to see what the what the rules are around that, they're in the guidelines there. The other thing that's cool is this year, if you view one of our brown bag presentations online, you remember how you'd have to let me know, and then I'd send some questions to you, and then you'd send them back. Well, we've automated that. So there's actually a link that you can click on and fill out a test, and then click a button, and that goes to us automatically, and then we'll let you know if you passed or failed. Only one person failed last year, but that's okay. I will not reveal the name because they'd paid me handsomely not to reveal it. All right, where are we going? All right, so that's the brown bags. Get involved. This is similar to last year. A big part of our wellness program is going out and doing stuff in the community. And we're working on this part of it because if you recall last year, what did we do?
That physical activity.
Yeah, we included the physical activity with the volunteer stuff and put your name in the hat for the drawing. This year, if you go out and do a fitness activity like a run or a walk or a biking event or the American Lung Association's Climb for Clean Air, which is January 26th or 7th, I don't remember. Anyway, then we will provide you a $100 incentive. Now, this is kind of interesting because you had that question about walking and that kind of thing. In my opinion, everybody can get $100 out of this program. If you have a public transportation pass, like TriMet or the one up in Washington, you got $100. Because we want to be a green company and we want to encourage people to take public transportation. If you do a fitness class like yoga or Pilates or whatever it is, you get $100. If you bike to work or if you walk to work, you tell me that you bike to work and you walk to work, and I'm going to meet you the next morning at your house, and we're going to go bike or walk together. No. This is where we just want to take your word for it. We're not about rules so much. We're just about creating a different culture. And if you tell us that you've biked to work or you walk to work, you probably do, and we're going to give you $100. What else? Yes.
Couldn't people like take a picture of like Friday to work, like maybe grab a buddy or something and then post it to the site? They do that? Or?
Yeah, we can do that. If you want to take a picture of yourself on your little commuter bike or whatever and send that, that's fine. It's not required, but I think it'd be cool because, you know, we like to have pictures of people doing stuff on our website. But yeah, sure.
What about the gym membership?
Gym memberships. If you have a gym membership, show me a receipt. You get $100. So this one is really cool because, you know, there aren't many people who can't get $100 out of our program. But you got to do something that has to do with fitness, and that's kind of what we're trying to do. Yes.
Is the KP log thing, is that eligible? You know, we have to go in every day and log how much you've walked every day?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, if you do an organized fitness activity, and that's an organized fitness activity, sure.
You just take a picture of your log?
Yeah, I mean, whatever is the best way to provide evidence that you're doing it. Sure. All right, any questions on that? Yeah.
For the PST care gaps, those are constantly changing. And as of today, I don't know if I have any care gaps, and if so, what they are. Do you have to have no care gaps throughout 2014 or at one particular snapshot in time? How does that work?
No. That's kind of what's interesting about the program. Again, it gets back to a trust issue. If you have no care gaps as of right now, get that to me, quick, because you might have one tomorrow. But as long as you submit that healthcare reminders page or personal action plan and there's nothing on it, you're eligible for the reimbursement for the award. It got too difficult to figure out how to play around with time periods, and it's not about that. It's about encouraging people. Now, granted, if you get money because you don't have a care gap today, we would hope that if one pops up later on, that you'll be incentivized to take care of it as soon as you can, because that's what we're trying to do. I mean, if you have to have, if you're 50 and you need a colonoscopy or you get a fit test, go do it. It's good health. That's what wellness is all about. So that's what we're trying to encourage. We're not trying to make it difficult or frustrating for people. Okay, so the drawing. We're going to have the drawings again, but they're going to be quarterly this year. And all we're asking is that people volunteer 2 hours per quarter. I mean, gee, that's pretty minimal. 2 hours per quarter, and that's just your name in the hat. Okay. Now, here's the other thing. Because this program is being rolled out for our physicians and clinicians, we are partnering with certain school districts in a program called Thriving Schools. And what that does is it takes people, mostly physicians, but they're looking for nurses and other clinicians to go out into designated underserved schools and talk about nutrition or, I don't know, whatever the topic is. There's certain topics that they've identified that the school thinks are important. And if you do that, then you qualify for the drawing too. And then lastly, it's not really part of the program, but these are very important reminders. Because we're not requiring you to, you know, have your biometrics tested, just remember to do it when your doctor says you should have them done. get an eye exam, go to your dentist at least twice a year. Oh, I'm way behind. Exercise at least 30 minutes, 5 days a week, and take care of your skin. We're going to have a brown bag this year on skin care, and I think that's going to be very cool. Probably put it right like in the May-June time when the sun actually starts to come back out again. So be watching for that. All right, that's the program this year. Any questions? Yes.
So Dave, I'm here, and I'm so sorry if you said that. I just produced it. Do we just send all our junk to you?
Yes.
All right. Because it doesn't say anywhere. Send your
You got to click on the little
Dave.
links, which tells you how to submit stuff. And by the way, my mailbox is now on 15. Don't send stuff to 6 anymore, because I still get a bunch of stuff down to 6. So I'm somewhat permanently on 16. At least we put my name on the door, so
Yeah.
I guess that doesn't mean anything around here, but all right. So, Emmie Yeiter is going to talk about a really cool TED Talk, and then we're going to show it. It's about a 10 or 12-minute TED Talk. So, Emmie, come on up.
Hi guys. So we've been meeting weekly to talk about your Rewards of Wellness incentive program, and we've also been talking about other ways to get you guys excited about your health and wellness. And in college, I actually got sent this TED Talk video because someone thought it was really good, and they're like, I think you'd like this. And I watched it, and it really changed my perspective. I'd like to think I'm already pretty optimistic about life, but this guy and his thoughts and different way of thinking about positive psychology is really interesting and really inspiring. After I watched it, I actually bought the book that he wrote. His name's Shawn Achor. You can buy it from Amazon for $18 if you're interested afterwards about getting it yourself, or if you have a Kindle, it's only $11.99. But basically, Shawn is a leader and world-class expert on positive psychology and how it ties into success, which I think is really important. And we'd like to think that we're really positive a lot of the time, but life throws us curveballs, and we deal with it. It's one of the most popular TED Talks, actually, over 4 million views, so I think you guys will really like it.
When I was 7 years old and my sister was just 5 years old, we were playing on top of a bunk bed. I was 2 years older than my sister at the time. I mean, I'm 2 years older than her now, but at the time that meant she had to do everything that I wanted to do, and I wanted to play war. So we were up on top of our bunk beds, and on one side of the bunk bed I had put out all my G.I. Joe soldiers and weaponry, and on the other side were all my sister's Milos and ponies and ready for a cavalry charge. There are differing accounts of what actually happened that afternoon, but since my sister is not here with us today, let me tell you the true story. Which is my sister is a little bit on the clumsy side, and somehow, without any help or push from her older brother at all, suddenly Amy disappeared off of the top of the bunk bed and landed with this crash on the floor. And I nervously peered over the side of the bed to see what had befallen my fallen sister, and saw that she had landed painfully on her hands and knees on all fours on the ground. I was nervous because my parents had charged me with making sure that my sister and I played as safely and as quietly as possible. And seeing as how I had accidentally broken Amy's arm just 1 week before, heroically pushing her out of the way of an oncoming imaginary sniper bullet, for which I have yet to be thanked. I was trying as hard as I could. She didn't even see it coming. I was trying as hard as I could to be on my best behavior, and I saw my sister's face this wail of pain and suffering and surprise, threatening to erupt from her mouth and threatening to wake my parents from the long winter's nap for which they had settled. So I did the only thing my little frantic 7-year-old brain could think to do to avert this tragedy. If you have children, you've seen this hundreds of times before. I said, Amy, wait, don't cry, don't cry. Did you see how you landed? No human lands on all fours like that. Amy, I think this means you're a unicorn. Now that was cheating because there's nothing in the world my sister would want more than not to be Amy the hurt 5-year-old little sister, but Amy the special unicorn. Of course, this was an option that was open to her brain at no point in the past. And you could see on my poor, manipulated sister's face conflict. As her little brain attempted to devote resources to feeling the pain and suffering surprise she just experienced, or contemplating her newfound identity as a unicorn. And the latter won out. Instead of crying, instead of ceasing our play, instead of waking my parents with all the negative consequences that would have ensued for me, instead, a smile spread across her face, and she scrambled right back up onto the bunk bed with all the grace of a baby unicorn. With one broken leg. What we stumbled across at this tender age of just 5 and 7, we had no idea at the time, was something that was going to be at the vanguard of a scientific revolution occurring 2 decades later in the way that we look at the human brain. What we had stumbled across is something called positive psychology, which is the reason that I'm here today and the reason that I wake up every morning. When I first started talking about this research outside of academia, out with companies and schools, the very first thing they said to never do is to start your talk with a graph. The very first thing I wanted to do is start my talk with a graph. This graph looks boring, but this graph is the reason that I get excited and wake up every morning. And this graph doesn't even mean anything. It's fake data. What we found is if I got this data back studying you here in the room, I would be thrilled because there's very clearly a trend that's going on there, and that means that I can get published, which is all that really matters. The fact that there's one weird red dot that's up above the curve, there's one weird in the room, you know who you are, I saw you earlier. That's no problem. That's no problem, as most of you know, because I can just delete that dot. I can delete that dot because that's clearly a measurement error, and we know that's a measurement error because it's messing up my data. So one of the very first things that we teach people in economics and statistics and business and psychology courses is how, in a statistically valid way, do we eliminate the weirdos? How do we eliminate the outliers? So that we can find the line of best fit, which is fantastic if I'm trying to find out how many Advil the average person should be taking, too. But if I'm interested in potential, if I'm interested in your potential or for happiness or productivity or energy or creativity, what we're doing is we're creating the cult of the average with science. If I ask a question like how fast can a child learn how to read in a classroom, scientists change the answer to how fast does the average child learn how to read in that classroom, and then we tailor the class right towards the average. Now, if you fall below the average on this curve, then psychologists get thrilled, because that means you're either depressed or you have a disorder or hopefully both. We're hoping for both because our business model is if you come into a therapy session with one problem, we want to make sure you leave knowing you have 10. So you'll keep coming back over and over again. We'll go back into your childhood if necessary, but eventually what we want to do is to make you normal again. But normal is merely average. And what I posit and what positive psychology posits is that if we study what is merely average, we will remain merely average. Then instead of deleting those positive outliers, what I intentionally do is come into a population like this one and says, why? Why is it that some of you are so high above the curve in terms of your intellectual ability, athletic ability, musical ability, creativity, energy levels, your resiliency in the face of challenge, your sense of humor? Whatever it is, instead of deleting you, what I want to do is study you. Because maybe we can glean information, not just how to move people up to the average, but how we can move the entire average up at our companies and schools worldwide. The reason this graph is important to me is when I turn on the news, it seems like the majority of the information is not positive. In fact, it's negative. Most of it's about murder, corruption, diseases, natural disasters, and very quickly, my brain starts to think that's the accurate ratio of negative to positive in the world. What that's doing is creating something called the medical school syndrome, which if you know people who have been to medical school during the first year of medical training, as you read through a list of all the symptoms and diseases that could happen, suddenly you realize you have all of them. I have a brother-in-law named Bobo, which is a whole other story. Bobo married Amy the unicorn. Bobo called me on the phone from Yale Medical School. And Bobo said, Sean, I have leprosy. Which even at Yale is extraordinarily rare. But I had no idea how to console poor Bobo because he had just gotten over an entire week of menopause. See, what we're finding is not necessarily the reality that shapes us, but the lens through which your brain views the world that shapes your reality. And if we can change the lens, not only can we change your happiness, we can change every single educational and business outcome at the same time. When I applied to Harvard, I applied on a dare. I didn't expect to get in, and my family had no money for college. When I got a military scholarship 2 weeks later that allowed me to go, suddenly something that wasn't even a possibility became a reality. When I went there, I assumed everyone else would see it as a privilege as well, that they'd be excited to be there. Even if you're in a classroom full of people smarter than you, you'd be happy just to be in that classroom, which is what I felt. But what I found there is while some people experienced that, when I graduated after my 4 years and then spent the next 8 years living in the dorms with the students, Harvard asked me to. Wasn't that guy. But what happened... I was an officer of Harvard to counsel students through the difficult 4 years, and what I found in my research and my teaching is that these students, no matter how happy they were with their original success of getting into the school, 2 weeks later their brains were focused not on the privilege of being there, nor on their philosophy or their physics. Their brain was focused on the competition, the workload, the hassles, the stresses, the complaints. When I first went in there, I walked into the freshman dining hall, which is where my friends from Waco, Texas, which is where I grew up, I know some of you have heard of it, when they come to visit me, they look around, they say, this freshman dining hall looks like something out of Hogwarts from the movie Harry Potter, which it does. This is Hogwarts from the movie Harry Potter, and that's Harvard. And when they see this, they say, Sean, why do you waste your time studying happiness at Harvard? Seriously, what does a Harvard student possibly have to be unhappy about? Embedded within that question is the key to understanding the science of happiness. Because what that question assumes is that our external world is predictive of our happiness levels. When in reality, if I know everything about your external world, I can only predict 10% of your long-term happiness. 90% of your long-term happiness is predicted not by the external world, but by the way your brain processes the world. And if we change it, if we change our formula for happiness and success, what we can do is change the way that we can then affect reality. What we found is that only 25% of job successes are predicted by IQ. 75% of job successes are predicted by your optimism levels, your social support, and your ability to see stress as a challenge instead of as a threat. I talked to a boarding school up in New England, probably the most prestigious boarding school, and they said, we already know that. So every year, instead of just teaching our students, we also have a wellness week, and we're so excited. Monday night, we have the world's leading expert coming in to speak about adolescent depression. Tuesday night is school violence and bullying. Wednesday night's eating disorders. Thursday night is illicit drug use. And Friday night, we're trying to decide between risky sex or happiness. I said that's most people's Friday nights. Which I'm glad you liked, but they did not like that at all. Silence on the phone. And into the silence, I said, I'd be happy to speak at your school, but just so you know, that's not a wellness week, that's a sickness week. What you've done is you've outlined all the negative things that can happen, but not talked about the positive. The absence of disease is not health. Here's how we get to health. We need to reverse the formula for happiness and success. In the past 3 years, I've traveled to 45 different countries, working with schools and companies in the midst of an economic downturn. And what I found is that most companies and schools follow a formula for success, which is this. If I work harder, I'll be more successful. And if I'm more successful, then I'll be happier. That undergirds most of our parenting styles, our managing styles, the way that we motivate our behavior. And the problem is, it's scientifically broken and backwards for 2 reasons. First, every time your brain has a success, you just change the goalpost of what success looked like. You got good grades, now you have to get better grades. You got into a good school, now you have to get a better school. You got a good job, now you have to get a better job. You hit your sales target, we're going to change your sales target. And if happiness is on the opposite side of success, your brain never gets there. What we've done is we've pushed happiness over the cognitive horizon as a society. And that's because we think we have to be successful, then we'll be happier. But the real problem is our brains work in the opposite order. If you can raise somebody's level of positivity in the present, then their brain experiences what we now call a happiness advantage, which is your brain at positive performs significantly better than it does at negative, neutral, or stressed. Your intelligence rises, your creativity rises, your energy levels rise. In fact, what we found is that every single business outcome improves. Your brain at positive is 31% more productive than your brain at negative, neutral, or stressed. You're 37% better at sales. Doctors are 19% faster, more accurate at coming up with the correct diagnosis when positive instead of negative, neutral, or stressed, which means we can reverse the formula. If we can find a way of becoming positive in the present, then our brains work even more successfully as we're able to work harder, faster, and more intelligently. What we need to be able to do is to reverse this formula so we can start to see what our brains are actually capable of. Because dopamine, which floods into your system when you're positive, has 2 functions. Not only does it make you happier, it turns on all the learning centers in your brain, allowing you to adapt to the world in a different way. We've found that there are ways that you can train your brain to be able to become more positive. In just a 2-minute span of time, done for 21 days in a row, we can actually rewire your brain, allowing your brain to actually work more optimistically and more successfully. We've done these things in research now in every single company that I've worked with, getting them to write down 3 new things that they're grateful for 21 days in a row, 3 new things each day. And at the end of that, their brain starts to retain a pattern of scanning the world not for the negative, but for the positive first. Journaling about one positive experience you've had over the past 24 hours allows your brain to relive it. Exercise teaches your brain that your behavior matters. We find that meditation allows your brain to get over the cultural ADHD that we've been creating by trying to do multiple tasks at once, and allows our brains to focus on the task at hand. And finally, random acts of kindness or conscious acts of kindness. We get people, when they open up their inbox, to write one positive email praising or thanking somebody in their social support network. And by doing these activities and by training your brain, just like we train our bodies, what we found is we can reverse the formula for happiness and success, and in doing so, not only create ripples of positivity, but create a real revolution. Thank you very much.
Fill out your evaluation, give them to one of us, or leave them on the table. And any questions before we adjourn here? All right, thanks everybody.